Welcome to Trial by Wine. We take a closer look at crimes that highlight how fascinating humans can be. Schmitty, Swanee and Clarky visit crimes and run them through their jury of three, debating both sides of the case to agree an appropriate, if totally fictitious, sentence. Please be advised, Trial by Wine may include explicit or disturbing content and will include drunken rambling. Listener discretion is advised. All right, how are we?
Not too bad.
Yes, very well.
Any news? We are, 2 days since we recorded, hence we have had a come to Jesus moment where we've realised that the boys are so rudely not just taking off their original holiday as they'd planned, but now they're basically taking off for 6 months. So we're about to embark on the most strenuous recording sessions of our life before Clarky and Woo head OS, and Swanee goes overseas too. As per usual, leaving Schmitty here in Melbourne.
Home alone, left to fend for herself.
That's me.
We're pretty sad, aren't we, Swanee?
I actually cannot believe your travel schedule. It is awesome.
And extraordinary, isn't it?
It is. I honestly like to see it in writing. I was showing it to Jeremy last night. I said, look at this. It really does. It is like, when you say it like that, it does make sense, because if you think of 6 months of travel, that I can get my head around. It's actually when you see them as sort of individual trips and whatever else, and they're coming back, that it feels like I've never known I've never known of such a thing. 6 months of travel makes sense.
Well, also because it wasn't planned as 6 months of travel. It was, 6 weeks, and then, we may as well go here, and then, while we're doing it, if we're going to go away then and then away in a couple of months, we might as well just go away for the whole time. So we just kind of booked trips independently rather than planning one big 6 month trip.
Yeah, I guess in some ways, depending on the type of person you are, the coming back and, touching home base, regrouping again, it's probably not a bad thing, because I think
washing your grundies.
Most people would go, but the thing is, this way at least you'll be able to tailor to where you're going. Do your washing. It is a bit.
That's what it looked like to me. It's like we return on this day, and 2 days later we go again. And I'm like,
we've got a couple of laundry days penciled in.
That's it, round the clock laundry and then back out again.
We can also change over what we're packing.
Carrying.
So you're carrying, which again isn't a planned thing, but given that we've got it the way we are, it kind of works out as a benefit.
Yeah.
I'd rather just plan 6 months.
It's a bit of a luxury, really, yeah. Because most people find that when they travel for that sort of long, they end up hating everything they've got. You know what I mean? It all becomes in the same gear or schlepping around and carrying the same, too much stuff or whatever else. So I think it might work to your advantage, I think. You'll be able to sort of segment and enjoy it all.
Everywhere you go, you can buy us presents and bring them back. And
well,
you
that's
won't have
the
the
main
excuse
thing.
of saying you couldn't carry it all back.
No, this is very true.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen anymore, does it? Do you remember how exciting it used to be when someone travelled, particularly overseas?
Always had presents, yeah.
Because besides the fact that when I was very young, someone would bring back a little trinket or a souvenir or something like that. Then that sort of graduated to, as a teenager, when anyone we knew would go to the US, it would be like, there'd be perfume and trainers or things like that. And now everything's available everywhere. So it's kind of a redundant concept, really, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
it is.
right.
And that might be why that one time, Swanee, when you came back from somewhere
Band
in Europe,
camp?
you brought No, she went to Europe, and then she went into the office, and in England they used to have this thing that you'd buy all the European sweets, and you'd come in and put a bowl of sweets out. She came back and put a bowl of cigarettes out.
Do you know, as you were saying that, I was like, I think that's where she's going with that. That would be very popular. But Marlboro Lights, was it, back in the day or something?
Probably, yeah. I just remember you telling me that, and I thought it was hilarious.
Oh, class.
Not joints.
Yeah.
I've been to Amsterdam here when you could have a joint.
But again, even ciggies, that was a big deal when you buy the carton or whatever else. People still do people even do that anymore? You can't do much anymore, really, can you?
Well, you can't bring them. You can only bring 2 packets into Australia. You can't even
Not
bring
cartons.
a carton back.
Oh, gosh.
A packet. Yeah.
A packet.
I think it's a limit of 50 cigarettes, which I can tell you Jacqueline was pretty unhappy about.
I was going to say, how did she manage?
50 cigarettes, did you say?
2 packets. That's all you're allowed to bring into Australia.
Jeez.
Yeah, and so
that's not much help to anyone who smokes these days. You know what I mean? People aren't dabbling if they do
well,
like that.
I think that's the idea. I think the idea is to stop people smoking. But
maybe that's why
I sorted her out with a local tobacconist.
Yes. Maybe these guys are going to just try to accumulate 12 packets of cigarettes 12 packets of cigarettes.
Oh,
It seems a
wow,
lot of
yeah.
travel to do for that.
For two non-smokers, yeah.
Yeah, for 2 non-smokers and 12 packs of durries, it seems like a lot of legs to have to
lot of
spend.
effort, yeah.
I tell you what, we could bring back some serious spirits, though.
Yes, you can. That you're still allowed to do, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they can bring back, is it 2 litres each? Or is it 1 litre each? Can't remember. I think it might be 2 litres each, so 24 litres.
8 maybe, yeah, something like that. But yeah, we
Again,
could go
that's not
crazy.
really a lot for...
No, but for
Some
12
people.
It'll
trips or
stock
something,
us
they'll
up for-
have their
across all
whole
the
bar
trips.
stocked. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
true.
Yeah.
They won't
Yeah.
be
For
drinking.
longer than 2
put-
packets of cigarettes at last.
I'll tell you what, I'll put my order in for some dark spiced rum. So what are we drinking?
We're about to burp, so that's a fair indication that I'm on my first
Swimming's
Diet
on.
Coke, Coke Zero of the day.
Ooh, look at you go, spoiling
And
yourself.
it is
I
very
know.
early in the day for you, so that's even more fair
Yeah, it's
than
midday.
normal.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm having a
Clarky?
Chockstone Grampians 2021 Rosé, which I picked up when I did my farewell tour in Horsham. And I just had a sip. I liked it because of the colour, and I thought, oh, I'll get that. Hang on a sec.
It's quite a deep colour.
It is a very deep
It's
colour.
quite, looks like raspberry colour from here.
It's
Or strawberry.
It's quite nice, but it's a bit. It's not really orangey, but it's kind of got a bit of. You know how some rosés are a bit sour. It's kind of a bit like that.
A bit metho-like.
Well,
at
no,
the
not
end,
it's not.
little
It's
metho
not
finish.
dry like alcoholic. You're going to get indigestion. It's just the flavour more so than the. So and I think it'll be fine.
Not my rosés as supplied by
No,
Schmitty.
she's got good
They're
friendship.
much nicer. Yeah, very nice. I like the little nearly see-through ones.
French style.
Yeah, Provence.
What about you,
Well, speaking
Schmitty?
of
What about you, darling?
see-through,
Not
I'm on
grunters?
a bit of Absolute vodka.
Just shots.
Um,
Yeah.
That's not quite.
You've got a shot every time I say someone's name or a place name wrong.
No. We're doing more than one recording today, and I've got to stay relatively neat. But I am having that with Carla's nemesis, Pepsi Max, because that's what I prefer.
Jeepers. Oh,
I'm not going to make any apology for it. If you don't like it, tough. Drink Coke Zero.
did you?
I've got one
That
child
was
who
that was
likes
for our
Pepsi.
listeners, not you.
Right. Good
All
chat.
right. So, who are we? I'm Schmitty.
I'm Swanee.
And I'm Clarky. And together we are
Trial
Bye.
Wine. Oh, you looked very excited with that one, Schmitty.
I know. I'm trying to get us to be a bit more upbeat when we do those intros. It's clearly
Oh,
working.
I thought a while back you wanted us to be more downbeat. Now we're upbeat. Oh,
No,
I can't tell.
Just in time.
Did you get that message?
But not sounding miserable.
Okay.
I don't know. I have definitely noticed the enthusiasm being lifted
Being
by
lifted,
Schmitty.
yeah.
I can
Right.
see that there's
Probably-
a concerted effort there. I've noted.
Yeah, duly noted. We'll try that for the next one.
Okay. All right. So who's got a story for us?
Me.
Oh, Clarky.
Yes, indeed.
All right.
Yes, indeed.
Tell us. What have you got?
Well, I'm going to tell you a little story. Recently, you both said to me that I predominantly do the dark stories.
100%.
And so, being the adult that I am, I have taken your feedback on board, so thank you very much. And I've decided to go with a very different story. So this week, I'd like
I didn't know if you were going to say I've dug my heels in and I'm going dark.
well,
I found the worst thing I could possibly
I was going to
find.
say, I think you'd be hard pressed after Chicoletto.
yeah. Well, that's normally my
Chikatilo.
double down and keep
Chicotillo, sorry,
going.
Chicoletto. Chiquito.
I only remember because of the song. I have to go, Chikatilo. That's it, right? Go on, Clarky. What have
So
you got
this
for
week,
us?
if you'd like to join me, I'd like us all to discuss space crimes.
Oh.
Yes, I'd love to join you on that.
Okay, so we're going to talk space crimes, and we're going to then particularly talk about the story of Anne McClain and Summer Worden and how the world became dangerously close to its first space crime. But first, like we did with cruise crimes, let's talk a little bit about how space law works. So there's never been a crime in space as yet, but people are obviously expecting at some point there will be, and so there's legislation that has been put in for quite some time that they'll be able to manage it should a crime ever occur.
I should tell one of my kids to get involved, get in early. It's like, what do you want to specialise in? I think my
Space
specialism
crime.
will be space law.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, who are going to you just start it up themselves? That's a great idea. I like it.
Well, maybe you can get them to listen to the first little bit of this podcast and they can see whether that
Okay.
piques their interest.
Let's see if it floats their boat.
So space is governed by 5 key international treaties. known informally as the Outer Space Treaty, the Rescue Agreement, the Liability Convention, the Registration Convention, and the Moon Agreement. Now, they do have...
Oh, my Lord.
Oh, no, that sounds a bit sus. They do have formal names. They're much longer. And, Schmitty, to save you from having to have a shot every time I get it wrong, let's just go with their common names.
I'm not doing it. But yeah, okay.
So all are under the auspices of the delightfully named United Nations Office of Outer Space Affairs. So the Outer Space Treaty first was developed in 1967 and is one of the most relevant when it comes to dealing with alleged crimes in space. In Article 8 of the treaty, any crime committed in space should be handled by the country that owns the spaceship on which the crime is committed. So similar to a ship in international waters, wherever that ship is, what do they call it? Not registered, but moored maybe, is the one who has to look after.
No, it is registered.
Is it registered? I can't think. I think there's another
it's not
word.
the right word either.
Yeah. But anyway, there is a word for it.
Yeah.
And wherever that is the one who would investigate the crime. So then I'm sure that the first question on the tip of your tongues is, what about the International Space Station?
What about the International Space Station?
What about the International Space Station?
Excellent question. So in 1998, an intergovernmental agreement was signed mandating that the home country of the offender will handle any investigation and subsequent prosecution. So, the home country of the offender is the one who's going to do the prosecuting.
The home country of the offender. So it doesn't... It's a bit hard because at this point in time,
Australia. If we were the offender on the space station, it'd be Australia, yeah?
Correct. Rightio. Are you already researching, Swanee?
No, I'm trying, to be honest, I'm looking at Malta, Valletta in Malta, to try and find out the name of when boats are
That's
registered.
That's where they make all of the boats in Valletta. Yeah.
They do a lot of them.
Well,
but
I don't know, but they do a lot, yeah.
There's something, because when our boat was registered in Monaco, and so if your boat's from Monaco, you have to have a Monaco flag on all time, but then when you go into the waters of the other areas, you have to then fly their flag as well.
Yeah,
I just thought there was another name for it.
I reckon there is. What's it called?
There is another. It's like the provinces. I'm not sure.
Isn't it licensed?
Licensed?
That's not what I'm thinking of.
No,
because you're the licensed. You hold the boat. You have the license. It's like registered, but it's a different name for it.
Yeah. Anyway,
because a lot of boats, all of the boats, they'll be from places like McClain and Islands, usually from tax havens, but Valletta, like a lot of super yachts will say Valletta on it, which is in Malta. And you think, what?
Yeah,
they're not from Malta? Correct, yeah. Anyway.
Panama as well.
I was just trying to find out, but I couldn't. Yeah.
Right.
Jersey.
Yeah. So on the working through the fact that the offender's home country will handle the investigation. So it's entirely possible that two offenders from different countries would be dealt with by their individual countries and possibly receive very different sentences. However, if the victim is the national of another country, that country will have the right to inquire as to the offender's criminal status and seek to have jurisdiction over the matter if they feel justice isn't being served. Are you with me?
So what I'm hearing is... If I'm thinking of committing a crime in space, it might be in my best interest to find someone who's not from my home country, so it kind of maybe dilutes things or makes things a little bit more
murky.
Or that might play against me and we might have to do it in two different jurisdictions. I don't know.
And if you put it into the context...
For me or against me.
Yes, and if you put it into the context of Eurovision, so there's obviously political things that play into this. So if you commit an offence against someone from a country that your home country doesn't like...
I like what you're saying.
Then it's entirely possible that your sentence will be lenient because they're a member of that country and they deserved it.
I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you. These are all things to put into... our thought process before we commit crimes in space.
So it's pretty clear so far, right?
Crimes in space!
It's been just there, and I was thinking, where is it? It's coming. There it is. It's like pigs in space, crimes in space.
So in most cases, space crimes would be dealt with in a similar manner to cruise crimes on international waters, as I said, which we've discussed previously. Hypothetically speaking, if Schmitty decided to set up a soap-making business on the moon, using the best sopranos in the galaxy as the main ingredient, the various international agreements and national laws would determine how she gets sentenced. So imagine a situation whereby Schmitty, an Australian citizen, renders down an Italian soprano whilst on board a US spaceship.
Oh, yes.
It's complicated, right?
Oh, yeah.
It is
yeah.
complicated.
And imagine being...
Not the soap making. That's quite simple.
Yeah, or the rendering. That's, I mean, you don't even have to watch that.
Let's boil that.
And imagine being the investigator of the crime. You may recall from one of our cruise crime series the difficulty of locking down a crime scene until investigators arrive.
Oh, no, the cleaners had already been in. They've taken the baby out from under the bed. They've gotten rid of all the bits of the soprano I didn't use in soap making. Yep.
Add to that the complexities of zero gravity. How does it affect blood spatter? What about forensics such as hair samples? Can they be relied upon to hang about on the victim? And who knows about the intricacy of body decay on the outer rim? Schmitty?
Ooh, madam.
If you don't mind, leave my outer rim alone.
I want to talk about body decay. That's right. Body decay on the outer rim, none of your business. Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, airlocks would make it easy to monitor movements. And how would the offender get away? Maybe it'd be more like a game of Cluedo. Another issue is the question of where space even begins. Earth's atmosphere does not have a solid boundary, which makes it hard to determine whether air law or space law should apply at a given altitude, and whether space-bound flights can be deemed to have violated another country's airspace.
Can you do that next? Crimes in the air?
Maybe, because I'm going to be doing a lot of air travel. To be fair, I'd actually wanted to look at plane crimes, so I could have a bit of overlap there.
Yeah.
So now that I've cleared all of that up for you, and it's quite easy as to how you would deal with a crime in space.
So easy.
Not a problem.
Straightforward. Let's talk about the crime. So our story begins in the US and involves the couple Anne McClain and Summer Worden. Firstly, let's talk Anne McClain. Anne was born on the 7th of June in 1979 in Spokane, Washington. From the age of 3, her dream was to become an astronaut, and she wrote a book about a family of space travellers at the age of 5. Anne earned a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering in 2002, followed by a master's degree in aerospace engineering in 2004, and another master's degree in 2005 on international relations. Her work on unsteady aerodynamics and flow visualization of free-to-roll non-slender delta wings was published in American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics. I just think she needs to calm the fuck down. There's an awful lot going on there. She's clearly very capable.
I would have been... She could have just stopped writing the book when she was 5 and I would have still been impressed.
Yeah, that's right.
It was like, chill out. You can sit down. Take a seat, doll. You're done. It's good. Yeah, it's good.
Add to that, she's an avid rugby player who played in the top level of the sport in England. She missed out on participating in the 2006 Women's Rugby World Cup due to her US Army commitments, and she credits rugby for her success in becoming an astronaut. Anne was selected by NASA in June 2013, becoming the youngest astronaut on the NASA roster. She completed training in 2015 and flew to the International Space Station in 2019. Anne is the recipient of numerous medals, including the Bronze Star Medallion, the Air Medallion, and Army Commendation Medals. And there were literally, a whole list of them. I thought, gosh, we'd end up making the podcast about Anne's achievements if we keep that up. So she's obviously very capable.
We wouldn't want that.
We wouldn't want that. No, we're talking crime.
Oh, God.
No.
So Summer Worden was born in 1975 in Kansas. She obtained a degree in business with a minor in aerospace. She also has advanced degrees in strategic intelligence and digital forensics. Worden worked for 13 years in United States Air Force and intelligence community.
She didn't write Lost in Space, did she?
She was a late starter. She also led a team for the National Security Administration. She has served in special access programs relating to nuclear, not nuclear, George, security. Worden also worked as the Director of Risk and AML at USAA Financial. She founded Philly Intelligence in 2012, a woman-owned and service-disabled veteran-owned small business. Summer had a boy via in vitro fertilization in approximately 2013, and she named him Briggs.
A son?
A son, yeah.
She had a boy.
A boy, also.
Yeah, she had a boy by IVF.
Yeah. True.
Hey, what year was that, sorry?
2013.
Approximately 2013. Approximately. We're not quite sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So she's born in
I
75.
would have
She's
thought
done
the birth
all of
certificate
that.
might give it away.
Was she with someone at that time? In a couple or on her own? Do we know?
There was mixed discussions on that. So I did see somewhere that she'd had a boyfriend.
Is she a lesbian?
But I don't think that was the case. Yes.
No.
Yes.
Oh, she is, right. It's just because you called them a couple earlier. So just checking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
okay, cool. Right.
Yeah. So thoughts so far?
Do these two incredibly bright and accomplished women who are interested in space,
Sickeningly intelligent.
do they know each other?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay,
Not
right.
yet.
Okay. So I didn't think so. All right, yeah. So Anne and Summer.
Anne and Summer. So
And do they?
Anne
I
Summers.
couldn't quite gather, but are they both aspiring astronauts?
So Anne
One is an astronaut,
Anne is
isn't
an
she?
astronaut. Summer is not.
Anne is an
but
astronaut,
Summer
right.
is in and
Cool,
around
got it.
She's
that
risking
sort of
forensics and
space.
intelligence.
Yeah,
And stuff.
I mean,
she's
I don't know how
okay,
people
I thought so. I wasn't.
end up in that trajectory as a career, but they seem to have done it and done
No
it
pun intended.
exceptionally well. Correct. There actually was no pun intended, oddly.
Hey, Clarky.
Yes.
You didn't tell us what your sources were up front.
Thank you so much.
So I
for
just
that.
thought, I was just thinking, I was wondering where this had come from because I'm finding it very intriguing.
Right. So my sources are, and there was an awful lot of them. I found this a really hard story to piece together because there's big headlines, clickbait type headlines, and then very little detail that is repeated more or less
the same
over and
details.
over and over. Yeah.
Doesn't that drive you
It's a bit
crazy?
of a pattern, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah. So I looked at mentalfloss.com, abc.net.au, heavy.com, justice.gov, nytimes.com, abc13.com, oxygen.com, space.com, wallycully.com, and today.com.
Cool.
Right. So about 8 months after Briggs was born, Summer,
The boy,
also the son.
The boy. Isn't that like the name of some
Briggs.
something Briggs test that you do before
Myers-Briggs.
your job?
Myers-Briggs.
Myers-Briggs. I was like, where have they got Briggs? I know we'll call it a psychological test.
Mummy,
Yeah.
where are we going shopping? We're going to Myers-Briggs.
There you go, Mummy being an ENTJ again.
So shortly after Briggs was born, they met and they married about 8 months later in 2014.
Oh.
There's not a lot about their relationship in the public between 2014 and 2017. So you can try to Google it and very little comes up. And I think it's because they were both pretty private people, obviously career focused, but also, from what I can gather, fairly tight as a family. What is clear, though, is that Summer felt that Briggs was entirely hers, whilst Anne began to feel a strong connection to him. And this is where the problem begins.
Oh, no.
So in 2017, Anne took Briggs to a NASA photo shoot, which led to some super cute pictures of the two together. And they really are. There's Anne in her spacesuit and Briggs there, and there's one where Briggs has got her helmet on his lap, and they're really nice pics. And then in March 2018, these pictures were run in an article on businessinsider.com. Following the publication of the story, Summer contacted Business Insider by email to state that she was the biological mother of Briggs and his sole legal guardian. So the article from Business Insider kind of referred to Anne as being mum.
Implied that Anne was his mother.
They actually used the word mum.
Yeah.
They spoke about parenting challenges, being in space and whatnot. Anne also tweeted the pictures in support of mums who struggle to find a hard work-life balance. The hardest part about training for space is the 4-year-old I have to leave behind every time I walk out the door, she wrote at the time. Then Anne filed a lawsuit in 2018 requesting shared custody of Briggs.
Had they broken up at that
No,
point?
they're still together. In her supporting declaration, she wrote, "I'm petitioning the court for legal parental rights due to Summer's recent threats to take Briggs out of his current home and school with no reasonable financial plan and no familiar or stable environment for our son." Summer was not supportive of this request, and the request was denied. I also did a bit of reading about the legalities of that, because they're a same-sex couple. They were saying that at that stage there were a lot of progressive laws that had been made for same-sex couples, but only in the context of them getting together, not in the context of them separating. So there were no very clearly defined laws around what happens when people separate.
I was just trying to think, because the backstory here is that we've got two highly educated, successful women. I was just trying to think if you thought about what Anne had said, if she were perhaps a male or was not considered to be an upworthy person, an upworthy citizen, citizen.
Yeah.
You'd think, I think you're overstepping the mark slightly. I think I could understand Summer at that point saying, hey, there's a way to go about things, and you seem to be making a lot of public declarations and then going and doing things.
Yeah.
She has overstepped the mark. She's not, Briggs is not her child. It might be that over a period of time in a relationship that you become adopted by someone, and it's wonderful. That does absolutely happen, and you see both of them as your parents. But it's very early days, and she seems to have really
there's an old adage
made
that
it quite
says
clear
that lesbians mate for life. So, and it's clearly a stereotype, but it's based around the fact that they fall in love quite quickly and quite deeply. And
what does a lesbian bring to the second date? A U-Haul.
yeah. Like it's that kind of thing, right? So
my friend who's a lesbian told me that joke.
And so all the I'm saying the same thing from plenty of people that I know in the community, but it's a thing. They do tend to fall quite deeply, quite quickly. Yeah. Whilst it's a short time frame, it's probably quite a reasonable time frame for some lesbians, certainly.
Sure.
And I know someone.
Well, they're women.
Yeah, they are.
Women fall in love quickly.
But you've got two of them. That's the thing, right? So a woman, right? Yes, that's right.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm saying it makes perfect sense, because women fall hard and fast, and you've got two of them falling in love with each other, then it's explosive. Yeah.
Swanee, is that true of Wiggers, do you reckon?
Don't start.
Why'd you have to?
Can't help myself.
Clarky.
I can't help myself.
So every time she's relaxed, she's
I'm in the zone. Now I'm on edge.
Never misses an opportunity to slip it into the conversation.
Just when I'd had a couple of Wiggers-free weeks, you got me back there. The edge of my seat.
All right, so let's continue then. Sorry about that. On the 4th of May 2018, Today.com ran an article on parenting from outer space, a story of the difficulties faced by Anne and a colleague of hers in parenting from space. In the story, Anne is referred to as Briggs's mum, and there's no mention of Summer at all. Here is a quote from the story. McClain, being Anne, knew Briggs would struggle with her long trips, so she gave him a calendar to cross off the days while she was gone. When she talked to him a few days after leaving on her first trip, she realised her strategy wasn't working perfectly. So it makes it sound like she's the person who is
sole parent.
Well, the sole mum, I guess. And the thing about this is that they weren't publicly.
They weren't publicly.
So she's a public figure, being an astronaut. She's not a public lesbian. So she's in the closet still.
Okay. Yeah.
So when it's being spoken about as Anne being the mum, people would assume that the other parent is a dad. There is no other mum. So for Summer, she'd be going, hang on a minute, I'm the mum.
I'd assume that she's left this kid on his own at home with a calendar, and maybe if he's lucky, a can opener.
Well, so it's an excellent assumption, and I could see why you would go there. So, of course, this aggravated Summer further.
I would get the impression that he has been left with someone other than another parent.
A parent,
because
that's
otherwise,
the point,
the way that reads to me is like, so you'd assume that he's with I wouldn't even say grandparents. It looks like he's with some kind of carer. Or something.
But
because otherwise you could say all that stuff in the context of saying he's with his grandparents and they understand, or he's with his mother, or he's with his father. But there's no reference, you're left to think, there's no one else for the child to be with except someone who's not family.
So there was talk in the article. So her colleague was a man, and so there was conversations about, from his perspective, what it was like leaving the kids and partner at home. But this one was very much, I think, just because they were talking about her as being the mum, the assumption was then that there is not another mum who is actually the one who gave birth to Briggs. So, of course, this aggravated Summer further, as she did not want Anne to claim to be the mother of the child. And she'd been that way, right from the start. So,
but they were still together, right? As
still
a couple.
together.
I don't get. At this point, I'd have moved out and taken my son and broken up and filed for divorce.
Yeah.
Actually, to be honest, if someone goes to the court and tries to file for custody or shared custody without my permission,
That'd be the end of it. Yeah.
that's the end of our relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that
It's
was
more than a red flag.
So she did that in
What? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a good point.
Tony came home tonight and said, "Oh, by the way, I just
yeah.
went to court and filed a couple of things. I've got a bit of an issue with this, and I thought I'd talk to you, but instead, what I've done is I've gone down to the courthouse and thought I'd do it that way. All right, love, what's for dinner?
So clearly, it was love on the rocks, right? And so that was in early 2018 that she did that. In September 2018, Summer was arrested in Travis County, Texas, on assault of a family member causing bodily injury charges after Anne McClain accused her of domestic violence. The case was dismissed on March the 12th, 2019. McClain filed for divorce in October 2018, according to court documents.
And McClain
Yeah, who is Anne?
goes for divorce.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
And the child stealer.
Well,
Wannabe child stealer.
yeah, depending on who you're asking. Yes.
Yeah, but also, I mean, in Anne's custody thing, she sort of made out that Summer's not a particularly reliable mother.
So in the custody case,
about not earning money and having no thought about where you're going to go and all that sort of stuff.
So
what was the domestic violence? I was a little bit confused.
Bust up, bit of a kerfuffle.
Was it? Could you just?
It was just jelly wrestling.
No, but I got the impression that Anne had made a complaint about Summer.
Yes.
And Summer got arrested.
Correct.
Yeah.
But or on a family member. But was that separate to
No. So that was
her and
So Summer
Anne
was
was a
arrested
family
for
member.
causing assault on a family member after
Who was
Anne
Anne?
accused her of domestic violence. So yeah, it was Anne. Correct.
Okay, so it was just the one because I didn't know if she'd gone and attacked someone else and then Anne said, got it. No, got it. She is the family member, right?
I punched my family member and then Anne came over to stop and she said, "You're next, whack."
No, I thought she might.
She didn't go on a family
I
member
actually thought
smacking
it might have been something
rampage.
happened to a family member, and then good old Anne came and went, "Oh, I think I'll use that to my advantage." And then,
no.
Then Summer smacked her or whatever else.
No,
got it right.
But again, that said, there was very little detail around
Summer comes out punching.
like a boxing
Who's next? Who's next?
Like a boxing octopus.
Exactly. Smack.
Step right up.
Oh, goodness me.
Oh, she's probably been pushed to it, I'm suggesting.
So in the custody case, Anne claims Summer has an explosive temper and makes poor financial decisions. Anne asked a judge to give her the exclusive right to designate the primary residence of the child if she and Summer could not reach a co-parenting agreement. A few months later, and after Anne launched into Space Station in December 2018, their dispute continued to escalate. At one point, Summer noticed that Anne still knew a lot about where she was spending her money, asking questions like, "Have you bought a new car and how can you afford that?" And Summer wondered how Anne could still be across this. So, determined to get to the bottom of it, she went to her bank.
Why are they still talking?
And asked about locations of computers that had recently accessed her bank account using her login credentials. Correct? Yeah. So she knows all the things to do. When the bank got back to her, the answer was that one was a computer network registered to NASA. Summer approached Anne through her legal team, Carla, so there wasn't a lot of good conversation going on between the two.
No.
And Anne acknowledged that she had accessed the bank account from space, insisting through a lawyer that she was merely shepherding the couple's still intertwined finances. However, Summer wasn't having it. She believed Anne was determined to take Briggs away from her. She filed a complaint with the Federal Trade Commission, and her family lodged one with NASA's Office of Inspector General, accusing Anne of identity theft and improper access to her private financial records. So this is where we get into the space crime bit, right?
Yeah.
Because space! So Summer asserted
Because she was in space when she did it.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But she was on the International Space Station. So who would have the jurisdiction of the crime? Come on, I told you all about this.
Oh, American, because she's a
Hey, there you go.
American.
Well
Yeah.
done. You
I was
were
listening.
listening. Yeah.
And the
You
crime
did confuse
is,
me with
No,
the
sorry, the
killing
victim
the
is also
Italian
American.
soprano on it. I'm like, oh, God.
Yeah. Hang on. Can we just plot that out on a whiteboard? So Summer asserted.
Yes, that's right. The victim's also American.
Yeah. So Summer asserted in her accusation that in 2018 she opened a bank account which she blocked Anne from accessing by changing her login information. She claimed that Anne attempted to inappropriately access this account from the space station. This accusation was quickly picked up on the media, by the media, as it could be the first known case of space crime. Not only that, but in going to the media, Anne was publicly outed, the first active astronaut to be in a same-sex relationship. Of course, this only added to the media appeal.
Oh, they love that.
And I did read, in 2019, there was a gomag.com, and they ran a story under the headline, Space Crime Case Leads to Arrest of Lesbian Astronaut's Ex-Wife.
God.
Like,
That's very wordy.
And just grapple for every little bit of
Lesbian
clickbait that you possibly
astronaut's
could.
ex-wife.
Yeah.
Isn't Anne the one who's done the Anne?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Anne. She's the astronaut.
Yeah.
Not Summer.
Correct.
Summers, that's right. So that's actually
Incorrect.
factually incorrect.
Oh, also a load of old shit. There's reasonable ways of reporting
Summer
what's
is not an
going
astronaut.
on, and that's
Anne is
not
the
really
astronaut,
it.
and Anne was the one who was doing the crime.
Yeah, correct.
Actually.
Yeah. Although, hold that thought, because I didn't actually read on with that article because I just thought that's an offensive line. So Summer spoke to...
And also factually incorrect.
Well, no, but wait. Summer spoke to the New York Times, telling them she became suspicious about Anne's activities when she realised her estranged wife knew details about her spending that she shouldn't have. And this is Summer talking. I was pretty appalled that she would go that far. I knew it was not okay, Summer told the Times. But Anne's attorney told the Times that she went into the bank account using login details Worden had given her. He said Worden did not change the password or tell McClain not to go into the account. There's no evidence that money was moved around or improperly spent by McClain. According to McClain's lawyers, she was checking to make sure that Worden had enough money in the account to pay bills and care for Worden's young son, whom they'd been raising together prior to their separation. Worden subsequently said, I protect my son with everything I have. That's my number one priority. But I didn't sense at the time that she was anybody that I needed to protect him against. I trusted her. So you can see it starting to go from, these two super capable people into just a shit-slinging media affair
Usual.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, it's not really very newsworthy, frankly. But the other flip side of it, back to your point earlier, Swanee, is that if Anne were a man and Anne had said, and a stepfather,
yes.
so, comes in, marries this person, is then the stepfather of the child, observes behaviours that are neglectful or not good for the kid.
Yep.
The relationship breaks down and he says, I want to protect that child. I mean, in this day and age, he'd have no rights anyway because men tend to have less rights than mothers anyway. But it's basically the same situation.
Thanks, Andrew Tate.
What? What I just said is pretty much factual, right? I'm not some bloody sex trafficking lunatic. Thanks very much.
You up, darling. That was unfair of me. I thought it was
two Romanian women. My mother unfortunately watches Sky News sometimes.
Yeah.
And I don't recommend anyone doing that.
No.
It's right up there with watching Fox News. But the headline said something about Andrew Tate arrested, trafficking with two Romanian women. And I was like, oh, they don't even get a name. All right. And his brother. And you know what I said? Who's Andrew Tate?
Yeah, apparently they're influencers or something.
I had no idea who he was. Yeah,
because I saw a headline
no
that said Instagram
and my
influencers.
sister said he's some feral.
Oh,
they looked feral.
But he's also been are they anti-vaxxing, like conspiratorial?
It's all that kind of stuff.
Incel wank faces.
Correct,
Yeah.
And they have like a business model whereby if you share his content, that's how they get it to go to more people. So he's got like 4 million young people. I don't know, lots of people following him.
He should be shut down. I'm all right with that.
Yeah.
He's the stuff, and it's all about, women deserve to be raped, women belong, like really awful shit, and all these young kids like it.
I mean, that is upsetting in
Glass
its own
rod,
right. But the
glass
fact
rod,
that you
glass
jokingly
rod.
called me Andrew Tate.
I know, it was just when you went, oh, no, I shouldn't have said sorry.
Look, it
That was
is
never funny.
true that, the courts generally find in favour of the mother.
Correct, that is correct.
And in this situation, we're not even talking about a paternal relationship. We're talking about a step relationship. Anyway, sorry, go on. Good chat, as Clarky
Good
would
chat.
say.
Let's continue.
Andrew Tate.
Investigators
what a
from
fucking
Inspector General's office spoke to both parties trying to get to the bottom of what had happened. Summer said, I was pretty appalled that she would go that far. I knew it was not okay. Anne submitted to an
You see, I just feel like Summer is now using the press to her advantage. I'm feeling uncomfortable with all of this.
It's very, very interesting. Anne submitted to an under oath interview with the Inspector General. She said that she was merely doing what she had always done, with Miss Worden's permission, to make sure the family's finances were in order. She strenuously denies that she did anything improper, said her lawyer Rusty Harden.
No way.
Was that Rusty Hard on?
Rusty Harden, who added that the astronaut is totally cooperating. Mr. Harden said the bank access from space was an attempt to make sure there were sufficient funds in Summer's account to pay bills and care for the child they'd been raising. Anne had done the same throughout the relationship, he said, with Summer's full knowledge. Anne continued using the password.
That wasn't in a relationship.
Yeah. But Anne had continued
Yeah,
using the
but
password.
if Summer has no money, right, and Anne has already said Summer's shit
But do
with
we
money.
know that she has no money? Doesn't she have a job?
She has a job doesn't mean she's good with money.
Yes, but I'm terrible with money, but going and checking in my account isn't going to change the fact. Was she going to put more money into it? I think that's inappropropriate. They're no
Were
longer
they
together.
officially divorced at this point in time or just
This was
separated?
December, did you say?
It was 2019. It happened January
18.
2019.
Anne filed for divorce.
So she went to space in 2018 and it was before the 31st of January 2019. So I don't think the divorce had gone through.
The divorce hasn't gone through, right?
But they're
I
not
know,
together.
I get your point.
Do you know what
really?
I mean? It's just
I
something
do.
that's
I
a bit-
do. I can see that you're on that's a invasion of privacy side.
Yeah, I don't believe that she's like just checking. I don't believe that. What's she going to do is she going to put money into the account?
She might
If
have.
she's
yeah.
in space, what else is she going to do with her time? like it's boring up here.
Stare out the window at the
I think I'd
earth.
give them job. I reckon they might have some jobs to do up there.
I've banged my ass on the ceiling 7 times because there's no gravity. I don't know what else to do. I'll just go and check the bank account.
I think I have what's it called? A space cookie or what are those things called? Space bars. I have a snack, a space bar.
I wonder what their internet's like up there.
Yeah, good question.
Pretty good, apparently.
Pretty good.
It's
It's right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking it's right next to Elon Musk's satellite, so it must be great. Yeah.
So she said that she'd continued using the password that she'd previously used and never heard from Summer that the account was now off limits, he added. Anne wrote an email to Summer questioning her claims that Anne had sent threatening emails from orbit and had been accessing bank accounts, saying, not sure where that info comes from. Despite the turmoil, Anne...
Stop saying shit like that, bitch, or I'll come and punch her.
Oh, nut puncher.
I'll come for you.
I haven't sent a threatening email until now.
That's right, yeah. Despite the turmoil, Anne portrayed no outward signs of trouble on the space station. After receiving Anne's email, Summer filed a complaint with the Federal Trade Commission accusing Anne of committing identity theft, though she saw no sign that anyone had moved or made use of the funds in her account. So she's basically saying that's my account and her accessing it is identity theft. Anne, on the other hand, was gaining national attention for another reason. NASA was promoting the coming milestone of an all-female spacewalk. She was set to do work outside the space station with her fellow astronaut Christina Koch. But in a sudden switch a few days before the spacewalk, NASA scrapped Anne's role, explaining that there were not enough suits available in the 2 women's sizes.
Summer.
A NASA spokesman, Megan Sumner, said that the decision about the spacewalk was not influenced by any allegations made about Anne, and Miss Sumner declined to comment about the issues raised by Summer. In the days before Anne returned from space in June 2019, Summer's parents sent a lengthy letter to NASA's Office of Inspector General outlining what they described as Anne's highly calculated and manipulative campaign to win custody of the child.
Who sent that letter? Summer's parents.
Summer's parents, yeah.
In the letter, they included the allegation of the bank account intrusion. The issue was investigated and found that Summer and Anne shared access to multiple online bank accounts. The account in question was opened in April 2018, and Worden's login credentials were not changed to block McClain's access until January 2019. Anne launched into International Space Station on December 3rd, 2018. Worden filed her original complaint in March 2019, according to the indictment. You following that so far?
Yeah, so she'd made out that she changed her passwords and said you can't use that account, but in reality she hadn't.
And she didn't even change it immediately, did she?
Correct.
She kept it until March.
Correct.
Well, no, was it?
She kept it till January and then she filed a complaint.
Oh, in March. Okay. So she knew she was going in and she kept it there.
Correct.
Yeah,
She
and
kept
then
it open.
she probably had the evidence of, have you bought a new car? Right, now I know she's looked at it. Now I'm going to file the complaint and change the password.
So
It was a little trap, a little honey trap.
well played. So after Summer's accusations were made public, Anne, who had then returned to Earth, responded on social media and refuted any suggestion of illegal activity
Literally,
on her part.
not figuratively.
We've been going through a painful personal
It's funny. Return to Earth. Yeah, okay.
come crashing down to Earth.
Yeah.
We've been going through a painful personal separation that's now unfortunately in the media, McClain wrote. I appreciate the outpouring of support and will reserve comment until after the investigation. Investigators found that Summer had allegedly set up the bank account in question earlier than she had told investigators and changed the login credentials for the account much later than she had previously claimed. Prosecutors concluded that Worden hadn't revoked McClain's access to the account. So Anne was subsequently cleared of the charges and Summer was charged with false accusations of criminal activity on 2 separate occasions. First...
And they simply handed the baby over and said, there you go, you can have Briggs now.
Yeah.
End of story.
Well, and everyone's happy.
Yeah.
First, the 2 occasions were first when she stated the claims to the Federal Trade Commission in March 2019 and then later to NASA's Office of Inspector General in 2019. Of course, Summer was shocked by the charges and said that she did not intend to mislead investigators. However, she went on to say it was her intent to change her password for the account, but wasn't sure if she actually had done so. I didn't misrepresent anything, she said.
I call BS on that. You can't have gone to all that effort to try and nail someone else publicly and not have that small detail taken care of.
When you change the password, you would kind of know, wouldn't you?
Oh, could you imagine? That is such a lie. If you were trying to truly keep someone out of something that had been in before, you wouldn't have anything that related to you guys or that they could try and guess. You'd probably have one of those ones that are, formulated for you. You would give it thought, right, to keep them out. And here she's saying, oh, I thought I had.
Yeah.
Bull.
Also, would
That
you
is
go...
simply a lie.
Would you go to the lengths of charging her or accusing her of it via lawyers? And would you also go to the media? Like it's an interesting strategy.
Absolutely. She's
assumed no one's going to find that out. That's
of course.
I think so.
Which is ridiculous because she's the forensic intelligence.
I know. But I thought, I understand that Anne did a couple of things that you were like, enough, Anne, you've overstepped your mark there. He's my child.
Yeah.
Let's play. You've handled that poorly at best, or you're making me feel very uncomfortable. So if that were the case, I'd do what she said, get her out of my life and move on. But instead she's kind of gone, I'm going to publicly bring you down.
I'm going to ruin you.
Option. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I'm going to ruin you. You've got a public persona. I'm going to wreck it for you.
Correct. You thought you'd
It's real nasty.
Yeah.
How very
Women.
dish.
Women.
What a lot of bitches,
Hell hath
eh?
no fury like a
No
woman
fury.
scorned.
Like a woman.
Let alone 2 of
Like
them.
a woman whose bank account's been looked at by
Yeah.
someone else. Whoa.
So Summer was left to fight
she
charges.
was an astronaut.
Yeah, that's right. Summer was left to fight charges that she wholly denies, feeling that she has to fight the government to prove her innocence and retain custody of Briggs. She allegedly believes that this is all part of a calculated plan by Anne to gain custody, and if found guilty, she could face 10 years in jail and a fine of $250,000 US.
Shit.
Well, the tables turned, didn't they?
She played that badly, didn't she? She thought she was going to sort Anne out and get rid of her. But does Anne actually has she said that she wants
Briggs? Well, she filed for dual custody.
So that
was before they split.
Yeah. But so after this, they actually got to a point where she had visiting rights, and I think I'll talk about it a bit later, and Summer wasn't allowed to leave the county without Anne's permission with Briggs. So it was
flight risk.
There was a very real thing going on where Anne was having traction, getting some level of custody.
Jeepers. Yeah, I'm surprised. It just goes to show you've got to be so careful who you go into a relationship with if you've got kids, right?
Well, there is a bit of that. So if you were Summer's friends and family, what would you do?
Nothing. Or I'd tell her just to pull her head
down.
in. Yeah.
Or another option is to set up a GoFundMe page, which happened on the 13th of April 2020. And
who did this? Family and friends?
The headline is Family, Friends and Supporters of Summer Worden. And it reads, after surviving a vicious legal battle initiated by Anne McClain's attempt to steal Summer Worden's son, Summer now faces baseless criminal charges stemming from McClain's own misconduct. Summer Worden is innocent and must fight the full force of the federal government, NASA and Department of Justice. Anne McClain's legal attacks have nearly bankrupted Summer. Now we, Summer's friends, family and supporters, must come together to raise the funds necessary to exonerate her. A decorated Air Force officer and committed single parent, Summer is an exceptional person, full of proven integrity and a testament to the American spirit. The truth will win in the end, but we need to help Summer fight against the politically motivated agenda launched to blame her for Anne McClain's own misdeeds. So that's the spiel to get you to donate money. And then there are two updates posted on the page. So the page started on the 13th of April and then on the 16th of April by Megan Worden, who I'm assuming is Summer's sister, possibly mother. I should have actually looked into that. But anyway, here we go. Thank you so much for the support so far. We still have a long way to go, so please keep up the fight. Friends, truth truly is stranger than fiction. Please consider donating to this cause. I would not make such a request if I did not truly believe these actions taken by the government to be outrageous, false, and a complete insult to our justice system. Here's what Megan is. I did recall this now. My sister-in-law, Summer Worden, is being forced to take on the federal government to defend herself against absolutely false charges. There is so much talk about this story that has been misreported and downright lied about. I'm happy to talk to anyone that wants information on the case or has questions. I urge you to write your representatives and ask if this is what NASA does with taxpayer money. Go after the ex-spouse of their astronauts. Every member of our family has spent their own time, money, and considerable emotional energy through this process worried about losing our nephew. Now it seems we have to worry about our sister as well. This cannot stand. Please help in any way you can and pray. Pray for our family and for Summer as she continues to battle the unimaginable stress she must be feeling. # Summer and Briggs. So that was the first update.
I don't really feel it would have got to the end of it. It's a lot. It's like, get to the point.
I feel like if I wasn't investigating this for the podcast, I wouldn't have continued reading. But I think it...
Exactly.
It's impassioned.
It is very impassioned. So 2 weeks later, Jen Braddock adds an update. Appreciate the continued donations and shares. Every little bit helps. Summer had her arraignment last Monday, April 20th, via video call. She pled not guilty and the judge briefed her on the do's and don'ts of being under federal restriction. Summer had her weapons taken away, her passport taken away, can't leave the state without permission, and the biggest insult, Summer must periodically check in with a probation officer. So much for innocent until proven guilty, huh? All Summer wanted was a divorce and to live in peace with her son. And now this 13-year decorated Air Force intel officer vet is being treated as a criminal while she waits for an unknown amount of time for a trial date. The amount of stress that she and Briggs are under is unfathomable. Please continue to share her story. Thank you. So, as of the 21st of June 2023, 38 donations have been made to the GoFundMe campaign, raising $4,955 US.
I was going to ask you how far they'd gotten.
Against a
I
target
don't
of
think people are that
$25,000 US. No donations
okay.
have been made in the last 3 years.
It's gone a little bit cold.
Yeah, correct. Summer was due to go to court in the American spring of 2022. However, there is literally
COVID.
nothing that I could
Massive
find
queue. Yeah,
post
a lot
that
of stuff
date.
got slowed down because of COVID.
Well, there was nothing about it being
she's probably still
postponed.
hanging
There was
around.
no, like, literally gone
Yeah,
silent.
sometimes, she's still hanging around, you know, not innocent until proven guilty.
But there's no media. There's literally nothing. So I don't know whether
No one cares
they've
anymore.
separated. I reckon what's happened is they've gone, this is a fantastic story. It's got astronauts and lesbians and all the kind of shit we love. And then they've gone, oh, it's just two bitches
Space
having
lesbians.
a custody battle. This is
Space
shit.
It is
everyone's
two bitches
over.
having a custody battle.
Yeah,
That's all
yeah.
it is.
Exactly all
Exactly
it is,
right.
Yeah.
That's all it ever was. The whole idea that someone that had got so much coverage because someone had looked at someone's bank
ludicrous.
account. That's what happens every day, I'm sure.
Correct. So
It's like,
no
hang
doubt.
on, lesbian astronaut. Yeah.
So that's how dangerously close the world came to having their first crime in space. However, there is still no crime. So, Carla, if your sons do want to continue in space law, there's still
Space crime.
a space
They
crime.
might have
Space
to
law, sorry.
also
Space
do
law,
family
space
law or criminal law because there might not be that much to occupy them.
But also,
Anyway,
realms
what do you
of
do?
space
Oh, no,
law.
I'm good. I'm just waiting for my next space case.
they could also become famous by being the first criminal in space if they decide not to go down the law
I
path.
thought that's where she was. I thought that's where she was going to go with it, and then she turned them
To
into lawyers. So I was like,
Well,
of
'cause-
course,
Yeah, she's the mum and she wants them to aim high, not low.
like father, like sons.
I don't want you to be infamous. I want you to be famous.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's all I've got. It comes to a very abrupt end.
That's good.
It was
Yeah,
good.
and look, I'm pretty okay. Yeah, no,
I
it
enjoyed
was.
it.
You're right, though. It is just a custody battle that got blown out of proportion because of some extenuating circumstances. But I do believe that the charges brought against Summer are a little over the top. And I do think it is a complete waste of taxpayers' money prosecuting her for saying, but does that not come down to, oh, you said that you'd changed your password, but you hadn't?
Yeah, so
I know.
Get over it, everyone.
it's really interesting. I watched a couple of videos as well, and they were on one of the sources I mentioned earlier. But basically, there was this real, almost a fear from Summer and her family that Anne was going to get custody, and Anne was in
I think she probably might have.
She was in the media. She did get, like I was a
She had a
visitation
profile.
every
She was
fortnight,
building to it. That's right.
So
Yep,
Anne played a very solid strategy of keeping herself clean. She was in the media for all the right reasons.
Yep.
She had NASA. So when Summer's then going in and her family are approaching NASA and saying, you need to get involved, of course NASA are going to go, how do we distance ourselves from this? Not how do we find a scandal in our ranks? That's why I think now Summer feels like she's fighting the full extent of the government and NASA and all these things, because they're going, well, you're the problem here, not anyone else. Whereas had she not done that and played a more discreet strategy,
just go through the family courts.
perhaps none of this would have
and deal with
happened.
it that way. And, just play. I'm the biological mother. Here's the fact that I can look after my son. The statements that I can't do that are ridiculous. And I don't even know why this is an argument, because this woman has no real legal rights to my child. Carla called bullshit on it, and so I'm pretty sure she probably did knowingly make a false charge around, and make a mountain out of a molehill out of the looking at a bank account business. But it's still not worthy of court dates and defense attorneys and prosecution and juries and a waste of money.
Yeah.
It's just dumb.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a part of me that says I kind of side with the sister-in-law a little bit, not quite in her snarky, because,
Well,
I'm sorry to tell you this, but once you've been arrested, well, no, it's very good though, and I think it was right. I think it was an absolutely accurate read. But from my perspective, if you get arrested for something, yeah, that is what happens. You go to jail for a period of time. You may get bail. You might be out. But yes, you have all of your, liberties restricted, because otherwise anyone could just run away all the time.
Yeah. I think possibly...
That's the whole point.
I think possibly too, the space thing actually amplifies the whole interest in the media.
It wouldn't be a story. Yeah.
But so had that not happened on an international space station, no one would have cared. But they go, oh, it's possibly the first crime in space, therefore let's give it all these headlines.
The worst part about this, I actually agree, I absolutely agree, but the worst part about it, Clarky, is it's possibly the first crime in space.
Well, it's not now. It's absolutely not. Yeah. And so, I'm going.
It's a non-story.
Oh, and I'm going to Google space crimes. It's going to be amazing. There's going to be some really good stuff. And all we get is a couple of scrags fighting over a kid. Like, it's terrible. And I say that, I actually do say that with respect, thinking I would say that about my own friends and family if we were doing this as well. So don't.
It's a couple of
just super capable women who have just been brought into this horrible. They could do anything, those two individually, but together, bad mix.
Agreed. Yeah, so I guess from a sentencing perspective, firstly, I'm going to knock out the criminal charges, and I think I'm just going to, one of two things. One is just make them go through a standard family custody and it'll just be what it is process, or the other, much more maniacal and evil kind of sentences, I'm going to take Briggs away from both of them. I'm going to go was it King Solomon's choice? Paul. I'm just going to say, well, neither of you behave well, so Briggs can go and be with someone else. I don't know who, but just not you two. Or I really will do the King Solomon ruling and say, if you both want Briggs, we'll cut him in half and then you can both have him.
I'm not
No, you clearly don't know that story, right? You don't know that story. So two women, not same situation, not astronaut lesbians, but two women go to King Solomon and say, this child is mine, this child is mine. They're fighting over this kid. And he says, fine, we'll cut him in half.
Yes, he's mine.
And, I'll give you the top and you can have the bottom, or we'll cut him down the middle so you both get the same thing. And the woman who said, absolutely not, no, okay, fine, he can go with her. That's who King Solomon determined.
Was the mum.
Actually cared for the child, more importantly, and gave the child to him. Yes, so you two didn't know the other half of that story, and therefore it sounded real bad.
I'm normally really happy with you going as hard as you want, but that was too far for a minute there.
No. No, the idea is one of them says, oh, I'm never going to allow that to happen, and therefore is the one who deserves the child.
Yeah. Thanks for clarifying.
Glad we clarified that.
Swanee?
I hark back to sort of the beginning when I was trying to imagine if Anne had have been just a stock standard bloke who had entered into a relationship with this woman. It wasn't, like some superstar astronaut that had a profile and, probably a following as such, because, she's pretty amazing. But if you just have to park that for the time being, because I do think she behaved in a way that would make me suspicious and make me uncomfortable if I was Summer.
Yeah.
There's something about some of the things that she did that would have my warning bells ringing. And I don't think you should be in a position to try and take someone's biological child off them after being in a relationship with them for any period of time, let alone a number of years.
5.
There's something very weird about that. And even if you said to me, I don't know if she always had enough money, whatever else, that's, again,
I still
not
don't
enough,
care.
not
I
good
get
enough.
that you're keen on the kid. I get that
Yeah.
you're attached, but no.
Thank you. I like that saying. I like that you're keen on the kid.
You know what I mean?
I know you've got a bit of a thing for them. And it's true.
I get you're emotionally attached, but you don't get to just take them home.
Yeah. And there's something, Anne needs to sort of be a mirror held up to her to show her how that would feel, because that would be a really threatening thing to do to someone else, let alone going down to, the courthouse and say, I've decided to file these.
That was extraordinary.
All that kind of stuff. I think, you haven't handled this well at all. You've handled it in a way which is, I'm superior.
Inflammatory, yeah.
I've got more power. People are going to listen to me. I'm somebody. Watch this. This will go my way.
Yeah.
And so I can understand why Summer kind of started to unravel a bit and then became a little bit desperate. And I think that's reflected in the way she behaved.
Yeah.
So this idea, she was bullshit. There's no way she didn't know what that password hadn't been changed. And I think Schmidt used the term honey trap. She kind of did. She kind of thought this'll work. Yeah. She's in space again. She was clever enough to know that also made it potentially more newsworthy. It's certainly click-worthy. As you say, there's not much more of a story to it than that. But I just think it's, that saying that women behaving badly or people behaving badly.
The real-time researcher.
Yeah.
It's Yeah, make them get back together and so they can look after him and realise that they're just
and resolve their differences and
idiots.
stop being dickheads. Yeah.
Fair.
Just let everything get in front of them.
I think you're right with the whole and thing.
Is this a family law court version of Trial by Wine today?
Yeah, it is. It really is. I think
We've decided we're going to force you to continue in a relationship.
Yeah, that's right.
That's why they do it all the time.
Yeah, we're all disappointed that you made us click on this, and now you're going to have to pay for it.
You've just wasted our time.
Oh,
That's
I would
right.
add something to that because I think Schmidt is right. If they're forced to be in a relationship, the bit that's like the little trial by wine magic would be that every decision and everything they do has to be Briggs-centric. So their little assholery that they've been up to this point is negated by the fact that if you have everything that's in the child's best interest and they have no option but to have to behave that way, it's not something they can choose to do or not. It's just our little trial by wine magic that we've sprinkled on them.
It is King Solomon's wisdom yet again.
Solomon's wisdom.
King Swanneman's wisdom.
They will have to, toe the line, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Look at that. That's excellent.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry, Clarky.
No, you're right. So I think I kind of struggle with Anne feeling that she's got a claim over Briggs.
Yeah.
And I think whilst she might love him and she might think that she could do a better job, the reality is she's the one splashing herself all over the media talking about how hard it is to parent a kid from space whilst the child's mother is at home looking after said kid. Pull your head in, honey. You can't do that. And I think I could imagine Summer going, fuck me, she thinks she's struggling to parent my son from space. What does she think I'm doing? So, that in itself is where I think this starts, and I think Anne needs to pull her head in and step back, take a few deep breaths and realise that Summer is the one who should be looking after this child, and she might want a whole lot, but that's not in the best interests of Briggs necessarily. So, not a big fan of the way she behaved. In terms of how you'd punish her, I guess I'm going to struggle to give them both individual punishments. I think Summer was just stupid in going about things the way that she did, despite her anxiety of losing her son. I'm not a big fan of that. But so I think often at work when there's people having arguments over something, I'll say, let's go and get the sumo suits. And you can fight it out in the sumo suits and whoever wins the argument. So I think what I would like is for Summer and Anne to have a grand battle in the middle of the town square where there's all the media that they have, certainly that Anne has craved, and they can fight and fight and fight for who's going to get custody of Briggs. And then once all of that's played out, I'm still going to give Briggs to Summer and Anne can just go about her own ways.
Cool. Not that it's replacing anything, but maybe Anne can get off her fat ass and go through IVF or turkey baster and have her own kid.
That is an open option for her. And yes, she's not going to have Briggs.
Well, assuming that she's not barren, but
maybe she is. And that's why she was such a good rugby player.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. That's a little bit cliched, isn't it?
What's
the whole
that?
rugby player bit.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to throw something in controversial just to liven things up
I didn't get it.
I think there are a lot of lesbians.
Female rugby players all become barren?
No, lesbians. I think there's a lot of lesbians in
sport.
And that sounds like me just
in soccer,
in sport
in
generally,
hockey,
but certainly
in AFL,
correct.
it's very common. So for men in that thing, it's very hard to find someone who's homosexual. For women in the versions of the same sport, very, very common.
Correct.
True fact, Schmidt. You can pull faces all you like.
Oh, no, I was just thinking about the statement about men not being homosexual. Well, maybe not.
This is very hard to find one.
Well, obviously.
Very hard to find one, right?
Please don't use Ian Roberts as your one and only example.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to.
I'm just laughing because it feels like that's, 20 years
ago. Yeah, I know, right? We're still going on that.
No, the rugby league player.
Oh,
when
so a soccer player has come out as gay.
I don't pay any attention.
No, you don't have to follow rugby.
I think there are plenty of Premier League gay boys.
I don't think there's plenty, and I think it always grabs the headlines, whereas for women in similar sports, it's barely even looked at.
No, because it's so prevalent, I think.
Yeah. I mean, anyway, that's your own business. what you want to do with who you want to
That
do,
sounded
as long
like
as
Bernadette
consenting
then.
adults,
Yeah.
I don't care.
You channeling bit your mother then?
And if you want to play rugby, that's fine too.
I mean, you could have
know?
said that before arcing up about the fact that there are plenty of gay
I wasn't
blokes
arcing.
in-
I was just
well,
wondering
you know.
whether. No. I just wasn't sure that there are none. I was more that you were like very
There are 6.
clean.
I was saying it's very
There are
hard to
6.
find.
All right.
I didn't say none.
Well, she's just found 6, so it's not that hard.
There you
No,
go.
I'm joking.
Anyway,
I'm sure there's probably, but there's not a lot.
It's not that hard.
Still quite good.
I absolutely
Pardon the
agree
pun.
that it probably, if there are gay people or gay men rather in these sporting fields that they don't feel comfortable coming out, 100% would agree with that.
Correct.
Because it's still very much a macho, masculine, testosterone-filled carry-on, which is probably why I don't like sports. And I don't
Good
like
chat.
any leagues, male or females, just putting that out there too.
Good chat.
All right, well, great episode, Clarky.
Very interesting. I really enjoyed that. No one got
Fascinating.
murdered.
Did you?
There were no
It
weapons.
was nice. It was nice.
Absolutely,
No
I liked it. I
blood or
really enjoyed
gore.
it.
Oh, thanks. I
Good
feel,
job. Well,
No one really got hurt except some idiots.
I felt like we were going to come to the conclusion that the
Wait,
crime
wait.
was me even coming up with this episode because there was actually no
No,
crime.
I enjoyed it.
No, that was very nice palate cleanser, which sets us up very well for my next episode.
Oh,
So,
no.
on that note, as we say every week, miss you already. Ciao.
Ciao.
Thanks for listening to Trial by Wine. You can contact us at trialbywine@gmail.com. Please rate, review and subscribe to Trial by Wine on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to support us, you can become a patron at www.patreon.com, Trial by Wine, or visit our website www.trialbywine.com to donate to us. Your support will help us cover many more cases and apply wacky sentences. We really appreciate you listening and hope you tell everyone about us. Our cover art is by John Christo and music is by Beauchamp from pixabay.com.